11 quarterbacks have been taken first overall in the last 20 NFL drafts. Will it be 12 of 21? Hey, how are you? Jason Horowitz with a couple of guys who I'd say know a thing or two about quarterbacks. NFL.com's Pat Kirwan and CBS's Phil Simms joining us here, folks. All week long, we're going to be breaking down the draft, getting you ready for this weekend. And, you know, last year, Mario Williams, he broke a streak of 5 straight quarterbacks going #1. This year, as we take a look at your mock draft here, your top 10, Pat,
Sure.
You know, this year, everybody has Jamarcus Russell going #1. Is he the right choice?
Well, I think he's a terrific prospect. And I use the word prospect. We'll define that later. This is a guy with only 29 college starts. He's thrown half the number of balls that Brady Quinn threw, and that would trouble me a little bit. But when you watch the guy and all the different throws, Phil and I have been talking about him all day, you get excited about the physical abilities and the potential down the road.
Well, what is that potential, though, Phil? Because when you break down the difference between Brady Quinn and Jamarcus Russell, why is his potential so much higher?
The ability to throw the football. It's really staggering when I watch Jamarcus Russell on film, how he can throw it. I thought there were some question marks about him, Brady Quinn, Calvin Johnson, who was going to be the first pick. And then after I watched films, I just went, there's no doubt in my mind. Great plays with ease. And, you know, we're not smart enough as fans as we watch TV, or a lot of us, we don't understand sometimes if it doesn't look dynamic and something really different,
right,
we don't know it's great. And he made, just like the Sugar Bowl, he made about 5 or 6 throws in the Sugar Bowl that were great throws by NFL standards, and they just looked common on TV because of his talent is so overwhelming.
And Phil likes to say size is talent.
It is a talent.
Size
Absolutely.
is a talent, and he has that too. The other thing is I went back to LSU and talked to Bo Pelini, their defensive coordinator, about this kid. So, because we get fed this line that, well, he's just a natural talent. This guy made all the line protection calls. And so we find out that he's able to grasp the game mentally, too. And if you have that component, along with all the physical stuff, you get excited about taking it.
Pat and I have talked many times about all this stuff. And I said, Pat, if the quarterback is 5 pounds overweight in college, wipe him off the board, because I don't want him, because he's the face of your franchise. He's the leader. How can guys listen and do what you tell them to do? Hell, if you're overweight, not in shape. He's overweight in my eyes. But you know what? I make the exception because sometimes when you're looking for greatness, it is there. When you're looking for greatness, you've got to take a chance. So you're taking a chance. I think there's a chance there with Jamarcus Russell. If I was the Raiders, I would take that chance because he could be a superstar.
You know, the other thing is you like guys that make themselves better. You're talking about making all the defensive line checkdowns and the calls on the defensive line. There was criticism throughout his college career until the last 6 or 7 games was that he made bad decisions. He cut those out the rest of the way.
Well, not when those bad decisions, I don't know who, that's some dummy that's making comments on one of those sports shows that doesn't know what he's talking. I watched his tapes. His decision-making, 2 things. LSU's offense was more complicated and sophisticated than I expected, and Jamarcus Russell's decision-making was, I'm not saying it was outstanding, but it was pretty dang good. It's good enough to be in the NFL.
And another thing, Phil, that I like, for as big as he is and to look like a guy that might want to stick every ball in there at the same speed, he has touch.
Yeah,
he can throw the check down pass, he can throw the out route, he can move around the pocket. And I don't think he's a guy that ran around trying to win games with his feet, although he can move.
All right, let's get to the team that had the #1 pick last year, passed on the best player in the draft, at least most dynamic, in Reggie Bush. This year they're sitting at number 10. This is the Houston Texans. You have, well, who do you have to the Houston Texans, and who do you think, because they have 3 options here. They have a lot of needs, obviously. Where do you see the Texans going?
The Texans, you know, did they learn anything from passing on Reggie Bush? I don't think so. They kind of like Mario. I think there's a lesson about Mario as it relates to these pass rushers we'll get into later. There's a school of thought, and I know Phil's not going to like this. He's going to shoot a hole right in it. There's a school of thought that Adrian Peterson's going to fall to them at the 10 spot. I don't think he will. I think he's going to get close, though. They'd have to move up to get him, and I'd go get him if he was at 7 or 8.
I would, too. Just to answer that question, yes. If Adrian Peterson falls to 10, you're not that lucky. Nobody deserves to be that lucky for him to fall that far. When I watched all that stuff and I saw Adrian Peterson, even on TV, he looks dynamic. And then when you watch him on tape, he's so impressive. Somebody's going to take a chance. I know he's been hurt. Somebody will take a chance. I think Adrian Peterson will go very high in the draft.
Real quickly then, Pat, because then the Texans would have to trade up to get him. You think there's going to be a couple of trades here in the top 10 picks?
I think there's going to be a lot of trading. I think people sort out the value of the players, and I think Detroit holds the key to this. I do think the Raiders are going to take their guy. Now, Detroit goes at 2. With Calvin Johnson on the board and Brady Quinn on the board, the pick is probably worth more than the player they want to take. They need to sell the pick. I know Tampa Bay would like to go up to 2, and I believe Atlanta would like to go all the way up from 8 to 2. And I think if I'm Detroit, I'd start there. And if that trade happens, it'll trigger a bunch of them.
Yeah, and you know what's wrong with the can you have the courage? You tell me, because you're really into this even more than me. Calvin Johnson, would you have the courage to draft him if you were in the Detroit Lions at number 2?
Well, I would, because you've got to throw history out. I use San Diego Chargers all the time. When they made the huge mistake with Ryan Leaf, that did not stop him from taking Drew Brees at the top of the second round a few years later, and then Phillip Rivers again.
Yeah, good point.
You got to keep pursuing talent. You can't say, what about our past? If that was the case, Detroit would never take another quarterback.
Never take another quarterback and never take another wide receiver, and they'd still be stuck with the guys they have right now. All right, folks, that's just the tip of the iceberg. 2007 NFL Draft Previews exclusively here on CBS Sportsline, but for more throughout the week, be sure to check out all the video all across the website. For Pat Kirwan, Phil Simms, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care.